Okay. Today we're going to talk about plants. First of all, we start from the very beginning. What domain, kingdom, and phylum do they come from? Plants come from domain Eukarya. Their kingdom is Plantae. And the phylum, we're going to talk about 4 different ones. Green algae is just where they all derive from, non-vascular and seedless plants, gymnosperms and angiosperms, which are both derived from seed plants. This is a broad overview of what the phylum for all plants are. The green ones here are green plants. All are classified as green plants, but these here are green algae. The blue ones are the non-vascular plants, which are land plants. The little turquoise ones here are the seedless plants, which are vascular. And then we have our vascular seed plants, which are in orange, and lastly red. These 2 are divided into gymnosperms or angiosperms. So here we go. We have green plants that divide into non-vascular plants, vascular plants, which divide into seed-producing, seedless, and then our seed-producing divides into gymnosperms and angiosperms. Let's do some characteristics. Let's start with non-vascular plants, which, as you remember, is right there. Non-vascular plants, an example of it would be the bryophytes or the mosses. They lack vascular tissue. They are the most primitive. That has specialized group of cells that conduct their water and nutrients from one part of the body of the plant to the other, which is how they feed themselves. Some of the ones included in this would be the liverwort, the hornwort, and the mosses. Its reproductive or life cycle is the form of alternation of generation. They are also homosporous, meaning they have both the egg and the sperm produced, so they don't need another species or another plant of itself to reproduce. Then we'll go into vascular seedless plants. The vascular seedless plants have vascular tissue of 2 types. One would be the xylem, which transports water and minerals, and the other one would be the phloem, which transports carbs and sugars. This is how they feed themselves. It is dependent on the presence of water for reproduction, so it needs to be near water in order for it to reproduce. Examples of these would be ferns and fir allies. To be more specific, we would say club mosses, whisk ferns, horsetails or scouring rushes, and ferns. The vascular seedless plant is also considered homosporous, meaning they contain both eggs and sperm. Then we move on to vascular seed-producing plants. These are separated into gymnosperms and angiosperms. The seed produced is quote-unquote naked. They develop what's called heterospory, meaning they have 2 different types of spores-producing structure and 2 types of spores. To get more into detail, their spore-producing structures consist of microsporangia, which produces the microspores, which in turn is the development into the male, or the pollen grain. Their gametophyte are small gametes, which is the sperm. Then the second type of spore-producing structure would be the megasporangia, which produces megaspores and hence develops into the female. Its gametophyte is the large gametes, or the eggs. The seeds are the plant embryo, which is also a food supply for animals and humans, and is protected by a tough coat. Okay. Then, as you remember, we have under the seed-producing vascular plants, we have both gymnosperms and angiosperms. So we'll go into detail. The gymnosperms, their seeds do not always develop in an enclosed structure. Some of these include the cycads, the ginkgos, the Mormon tea or the ephedrine, pines, spruces and firs, redwoods, yews, and junipers. Finally, we have our last classification, which is the angiosperms, which have an enclosed seed. They are also known as the flowering plants, which is also further classified as monocots or dicots. Now, as far as the plant itself, we have the peduncle, we have the sepal, we have receptacle, which is right there. We have the ovary, which is right in the middle, which is a protected, enclosed seed. We have the style that extends from the ovary, and on the top we have the stigma. So then we have what's called the pistil, which consists of the stigma, the style, and the ovary, which is quote-unquote the female part. Then we go over here, and we have these little tiny lantana-looking things. The stick itself would be the filament. The anther, which is the top portion of it. Both the filament and the anther is what's called the stamen, or the male part of the flower. Last but not least, we do have the petals. And that's about it for plants. Once again, we went over green plants, non-vascular plants, vascular plants, which go into seedless and seed-producing, and the seed-producing go into gymnosperms and angiosperms. That's it.